Today I'm going to look at the Vango Banshee 300 Pro. As a first look, I'm going to look at the tent design, the features of the tent and the benefit of all those different features. I will discuss build quality, the materials that are used, and I'll also then discuss and give you my opinion on what I feel is the type of camping this tent is most suitable for. Tom Heen Adventure, welcome to my channel. Now, the Vango Banshee 300 Pro here is a tunnel tent. It's a two-pole tunnel, so a pole at the back and a pole at the front. The pole at the back is a shorter pole, and the pole at the front is obviously a longer one. This optimizes the room in the front of the tent, lowers the rear of the tent, and makes it a little bit more aerodynamic. The tent is also a bit narrower at the back and broader at the front. Again, this just saves a little bit of weight and again helps with the aerodynamics and functionality, actually using the tent inside. Other aspects of the design would be that the tent is actually outer first pitching, and the inner here is actually, it's attached to the outer. So when you're putting the tent up, everything actually stays dry and the tent just goes up in one piece almost, with outer and inner going up together. This just makes the tent very easy to pitch. Now also when making the tent easy to pitch, it is a combination of pole clips to secure the outer to the poles, and pole sleeves at the top. And this just combination helps with the strength of the tent and makes the tent very fast and easy to pitch. Now, the materials used in any tent are very important, as in fact actually are the poles. So the fly sheet here is a polyester ripstop, which is actually an improvement on the previous version. I think it makes it about in around 15% stronger. The inner of the tent, which I'll show you in a moment, is also polyester, and it's quite breathable. So if there's a build-up of condensation in the tent, that will allow some of the moisture to pass through. But also it has a level of moisture resistance. So if there's any condensation possibly drips off the fly sheet onto the inner, it would take it a while before it would potentially soak through on that. Not sure if I mentioned there, the hydrostatic head, or the waterproof rating, on this fly sheet is 5,000 millimeters. Now, I've previously used tents with fly sheets, really good quality tents with fly sheets of 1,500 millimeters, and they were actually waterproof enough. So there are really good waterproof levels on this fly sheet. The ground sheet is a 70 denier, so that's just the thickness of the ground sheet, or the thickness of the fibres in the fabric itself. So 70 denier is actually quite good, because it's robust and durable, and it has a hydrostatic head, I think, of around 6,000 millimeters. Not the highest hydrostatic head that I've come across, but certainly probably well enough to do the job that the tent was actually designed for. Now, the poles here are aluminium, made by a company called Yunnan. Now, they are quite a sort of a thin, I'm not sure the actual diameter of the pole, but they are actually quite thin, but this just adds to the makes the tent quite lightweight. And it has a tension band system, which I'll show you again later at some point. The tension band system actually effectively pushes or pulls down on the top of the pole, and when you pull down on the top of the pole, you can see it pushes the pole then out at the sides, and that has the effect of stabilizing the tent and bracing it in the wind. So it potentially, the tension band system, because it adds stability to the poles, you possibly then don't need poles that are just as thick and heavy. So a bit of a benefit there, with lightweight. Now, just having a look at the guy line system, the guy's pretty much attached directly to the poles. So the guy here is attaching to this webbing, and the webbing attaches to the pole clip, which is directly into the poles. And there's like an equalizing sort of piece of plastic or polymer here, so when the guy line is pulled from different directions, this will sort of equalize the tension on these two bits. But when this is actually pulled out, you can kind of see there, that really does, it's very effective on that pole, and it really stabilizes the tent very, very well. There are little, you won't be able to see them today, but there are little reflective bits, in the guy lines, which obviously helps if you're out at night and you're not sure where your tent is and you shine a torch in its general direction. These will actually light up. And I think we sort of have some of these on the webbing straps at the foot, as well. And then it has really good, like, sort of little guy locks, which then lock in place and shouldn't slip out. But yet, even though they won't slip, they're actually quite easy to undo and to adjust. The guy lines as well are also fairly high strength. Now, ventilation is important in any tent, and this tent is really good ventilation options. So here at the front, you have ventilation, which is good. Behind this, you have ventilation as well over the door. Both of the vents on the tent have stiffer material, here, which kind of helps, prop that up. So a vent on either side at the front, and just behind this, a vent as well, just covering, the door there, and a really good ventilation option at the back of the tent too. Just looking here at the ventilation on the back of the tent, a really good big panel, and it can be held open. This here just simply pops on for a little bit of Velcro, holds the sort of hood of the tent out, and just makes sure that you're getting good ventilation through, and you have kind of like mesh just underneath here, and to give and improve the air circulation just across the tent itself. So now just inside the tent, I'm going to just lie back to sort of give you an idea of how much space there would be in a tent. My feet, incidentally, at the moment are just touching the very bottom there. So when I lie down, I have enough space sort of head-wise. Now, Vango said this is a 3-person tent, and there is absolutely no doubt you could manage 3 people in a tent. I wouldn't say incredibly comfortably, but it would sleep 3. I could maybe, I would be comfortable enough in this position, and easily another 2 people could get down here, beside me. Now, almost in the camera, I think. Space-wise and headroom, you're not really going to be able to see this, and it might actually be slightly out of focus now when I come closer to the camera. But headroom in the tent, there is still, I'm 6'1", and when I'm sitting up here, I've got another 6 inches, above me, so the headroom is actually quite good. This, feature here allows for more ventilation in the tent. It's not just that tensioned. It's not just that tensioned at the moment, because you probably noticed the garden I actually have here is AstroTurf, and I'm not able to peg the tent out properly. But you've got good room here and good actual storage at the front of the tent there, for rucksacks or gear, which is pretty good. And also, this is a double zip, so it allows then for your ventilation, as well, if you need it. And you have the same then down at the foot of the tent, although the ventilation here is at the bottom and the ventilation at the foot of the tent is actually a little bit higher, so you have like a high-low ventilation system, which is pretty good. I mentioned earlier the ground sheet fabric, 70 denier, that is something that I would recommend that you look out for on any tent. A lot of tents will reduce the weight by having a very, very thin ground sheet fabric. And once you puncture that, it is a puncture on part of your tent. So 70 denier personally is probably, what I would recommend. I think Vango have got that exactly right. They may have been able to sell more tents by using a lighter fabric and reducing the weight of the tent. But at least I've sort of looked, function there, which is the most important thing, as function as opposed to just selling products. The design of the ground sheet, is like a bathtub design, and what that means is that the actual ground sheet, is like a bathtub, and it actually comes up off the ground there, and it's probably a good 6 inches, and at all the sort of main critical stress points there, you can kind of see they're like reinforced, which is also very, very good. In fact, in this tent, if you wanted and you needed to, you could sleep with your head down this end as well. And I'm saying if you needed to, if the wind direction changed, so say for example you had head up at the front of the tent and the wind direction changed and was coming from the front and making a lot of noise and a lot of sort of flapping of the inner fabric, you could actually, 3 people couldn't do it, but if there were maybe 2 of you, you would have absolutely no problem just changing around, because there's still, there still is enough, height here and enough space, just a point, mind you. So that's pretty much it regarding my discussion and thoughts and first look on this tent. Hopefully I've covered most of the features. I'll never be able to cover every single feature of the tent. I would have also no desire really to do that. If there's something significant that I feel that I have left out in regarding one of the features, what I'll do is I'll put that up on the screen as we sort of go along. So lastly, the Vango have it's quite a large bag. I can't remember just the terminology for it, but it's a good size. I think they call it like maybe a fast pack bag. So the bag is a good size, and at the end then you can just almost stuff the tent into this, and then it has compression straps which allow you then to pull it tight. So that's a really good idea. I personally like to use larger rucksacks, although I know that goes against the grain with a lot of people. But if you ever get to the point where you have to move quickly and the conditions are quite harsh, you want to just be able to stuff your gear in whatever you need to stuff it into, and then just go and not have to micro manage and pack everything. So if you can just pretty much roll the tent up even pretty loosely, get it in the bag and then compress it down, great, you're good to go. The weight of the tent is about 2.8 kilograms, and in and around this price point, to be fair, it's hard, to get much lighter for this sort of money. I think at the moment some retailers are selling these for about £160, maybe 180, in and around that sort of point. If you spend a lot more money, in general, you'll just get lighter weight. If it's a two or 3 man tent and you're potentially splitting the tent between a couple of people, then the weight becomes, the weight and bulk becomes less of an issue. And I think you're probably unlikely to use this as a 1-person tent, although it is manageable and would be manageable with the weight and space to do that. Some of the other tents that I used have been in and around the 2.8 kilogram mark as well. And yes, of course, I would like it to be lighter, but it's just about managing everything that you have. The type of use that I think this tent would be good for, obviously, perfect for wild camping, whether that's trekking based or based on a bike or whatever. Also, good for camping in campsites. And I would pretty much say it could be used all season. I do sometimes think that the 4-season rating is a bit deceptive, because you can get, certainly in the UK, you can get really bad conditions and really high winds in all seasons. So certainly taking the tent out, I would say it would stand up to a good wind because of the combination of the alloy poles, the tension band system on the inside, and the aerodynamics. I think that's pretty good. But personally, I wouldn't be using it on exposed mountain sites, in winter. There's always a level of common sense, and if you can pitch a tent somewhere, that's sheltered, you should always do that. So all-round use, winter, I would say yes, but maybe just not on the most exposed, sites. So I'm not really going to rant on anymore. I think that's actually about it. Please make sure that you comment and like and subscribe to the channel if you do actually like my work. I have a lot of other videos, and I will be making more and more videos at the moment. So thanks very much for tuning in, and thanks very much for watching Tom Heaney Adventure.